Hi, I'm Robert Scoble, and a while ago, Chris Nuttall, who is the journalist at the Financial Times, showed me this remarkable pen that did all sorts of stuff that a normal pen doesn't do, and I had to get a deeper look, and that's what we're going to do today. So who are you?
Hey Robert, I'm Jim Marggraff, and you said, why am I here? So I'm here today because of my grandfather, who had me play with globes when I was a little kid. And there's an interesting tie-in. How is a globe related to a pen? Well, I had to learn geography. He was passionate about geography, so he'd quiz me on it, and I realized I loved it. And then when I traveled abroad, I realized Americans don't know geography at all. Horrible statistics. 1 in 7 US adults can't find the United States on an unmarked map of the world.
Yeah.
Is real statistic. So from there, I created an interactive globe to teach people geography. And I took the technology after I got that working, you touch it, and put it in a flat surface, put paper on it, and then taught kids to read. I created something called a leap pad. And then after I got the leap pad going, I read about a technology that put simple dots on a piece of paper, put a camera and a pen, lets you write on the page and track your position. And I said we could use that to turn a pen into a computer. So I created something called paper computing, and I founded a company called Livescribe, and now I've created the world's first smart pen, and we're introducing the next version of that smart pen called Echo today.
Very cool.
Thanks.
Give me a sense of what this pen does, because it's not a pen like I've ever seen, right? The pens I know just write.
That's right.
They don't do anything interactive with the page. And you've really computerized a pen. So give me a sense of what you could do with this pen.
Well, first, when I refer to it, I call it a computer.
Okay.
So it happens to look like a pen, but it is a fully multimodal computer, meaning multimodal, it enhances reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Okay. And as a computer that's multimodal, it is something we call a smart pen. So we took this from a smartphone and said, let's go to a smart pen. But what it does, with this, anything you write, you hear, or you speak, this pen will capture that and make it accessible to you forever and let you search it and share it. So let's back up. Okay. So I said anything you write, speak, or hear.
All right.
So start by writing something, okay? So I'll write on the page, I'll write, hello, Robert. Now as I'm writing, there's a camera in the pen. It's got a little LED in the bottom. The paper has dots printed on the page. It's just ordinary paper printed with black dots. You can print your own out of a laser printer.
And that's one key. You have to use paper that is matched with the pen.
That's right. We sell notebooks, so people can buy notebooks at the same price as ordinary notebooks, but we also let people download files for free and print their own paper out just using white copy paper on a laser printer at no charge. You can print a 100-page notebook out for free.
Okay.
So, but it's part of the technology. Those dots tell the pen where the tip is and allow it to, and will recreate ink as digital ink when you subsequently dock your pen. So you plug this pen in, USB connection, dock it to your PC or Mac. It takes the information off and recreates an image of what you've written on the page on the PC. Now that's something called a digital pen. That's been done for about 10 years. But we went way past that.
First of all, how does it know where it is on this? I understand that there's an invisible grid of dots here, but how does it know where to capture it, how to capture that image?
Well,
that's pretty cool. Even though it's old technology, it's pretty cool.
You mentioned a grid. I'm drawing some lines. So imagine on this grid that there's a dot placed at each virtual intersection, either north, south, east, or west. And this camera at any given time sees the dots which are placed 0.3 millimeters apart. It sees an array of 6 by 6 of these dots. So it sees an area on the page of 1.8 by 1.8 millimeters, okay, 1.8, which is about this big. As the camera is looking down, it takes a snapshot 72 times a second, sees the pattern as it moves across these dots. It keeps looking at the dots. From the pattern, it compensates for rotation, tilt, and position, and it determines where the pen tip is, but it takes a series of position snapshots, then it knows what you've written on the page. And the dots on each page, the pattern, is unique, such that the algorithm for laying these dots down on paper, if you use that algorithm and you printed out the whole pattern, it would literally cover the square miles of Europe and Asia combined. So we call it a dot positioning system.
It's not a grid of dots. It's a random pattern that you've placed here, and that the pen knows how to interpret.
That's right. You could say it's kind of less than random, but it's a well-defined, mathematically oriented pattern that avoids moire on the page. That's really clever in terms of visibility, but also uniqueness and error correction. So all those things that make it work. That's a starting. But that's been around actually almost 10 years. Wow. What I did is I looked at that and said, that's a cool positioning technology. Now instead of just capturing ink, let's put a computer in a pen, make it multimodal, like with a speaker, a microphone, a display, and make it actually act like a computer so it interprets what you draw and write and then makes things function after you've drawn them on paper.
So can you take us through some of
Sure.
the demos of what you could do now that you have this
So
unique pen?
a starting point is the ink capture is nice, but what you really, if you're taking notes, like a lawyer, a doctor, a student, a journalist, anybody that's capturing notes, let's let you not only capture the ink, but record while you're doing it. So at the bottom of the page, we have some basic record, pause, stop controls, audio controls, recording audio,
So
jumping.
it's recording, there's a microphone in the pen.
That's right. So I'm going to touch record, and now it says recording, 1, 2, 3 seconds. I'll write 1. It's the Echo smartpen, which is our second generation pen. 2, I can connect it up to my Mac or PC. And again, while I'm writing right now, it's recording. So it's using a microphone here with a little speaker there, an OLED display here, 18 by 96 pixels. It's got audio I/O and a USB connector here. And this is an 8 gig pen.
Okay.
So when I write 3,
How long can it record for then?
8 gig will do 800 hours of audio.
And how long
800.
is the battery going to last?
The battery in a single charge will last, if you're just writing notes without audio, it'll last about 30 or 40 hours.
Yeah.
If you're recording audio, it'll record about 10 hours of audio. So plenty for a day in the life of a student or journalist.
Very cool.
So
Yeah.
the third part, I'll finish, is our web. So
Okay.
the system is comprised of the Echo Pen, your desktop software, Mac or PC, and the website where we now have apps that can be downloaded into the pen, an SDK with APIs. We've got about 8,000 developers all over the country creating things for industry, for enterprises, for consumers, for schools. And then we also have an online store where you can, again, keep track of your apps and buy apps.
Okay.
And I'll touch stop now since it tells us we've recorded 1 minute and 11 seconds of audio.
Okay.
So now it's synced the audio. I'm going to, given this the microphones here, I'm going to plug in just an external speaker to make it a little
Okay.
louder.
All right.
And if I go back and touch where I was writing, if I touch the 1, we'll hear it.
It's the Echo smartpen, which is our second generation.
If I
pen.
touch 2,
2, I can.
where I can
connect it
touch
up to
on
my
the
Mac
lines,
PC.
or 3.
Again,
How long can it record for then?
So it goes, I can
800
pause.
hours of audio.
So on the bottom there are some controls. There's a record, pause, stop, basic audio recording controls or playback. You can jump back and forwards, some bookmarks, and a cool feature is this jump to position bar. So while I can move up here and touch the ink directly and take me to wherever the audio was when I was writing the ink, I can also jump to the middle of something like a 2-hour lecture, just go right halfway through,
30 or 40
and there it
hours.
is. So that's
And if you're
halfway through 1 minute and
recording
11
audio, record about
seconds.
10 hours of audio.
I can
So
also
plenty for
control
a
the
day
playback speed.
in the life of a student or journalist. Very cool. So the third part is our web. So the system is comprised of the Echo Pen, your desktop software, Mac or PC.
And go normal speed.
Apps that can be downloaded into the pen.
Or I can slow it
An
down.
SDK with APIs. We've got about 8,000 developers all over the country creating things.
Sounds a little
industry for enterprise.
and I can pause again. So that what I've shown you we call paper replay. It's one basic application that captures ink and audio, or captures writing and speech, lets you then access it from paper, move it from the paper world to the digital world, where you can then play it back on your Mac or PC and watch it animate as a flash movie, or share it with anybody in the world in something we call a pencast. So we have already 500,000 pencasts that people have posted that are just ink, audio, animated flash movies that they've authored from a piece of paper with
So
a pen.
my son, he's taking algebra. He can just turn on the recording, and as he's taking notes, it takes notes along. It takes the audio recording of what the teacher's saying. Is it good enough to hear something like a teacher in a classroom?
Yeah, it's exceptional. We did it. I actually hired the chief scientist from Bose who helped us work on audio recording and playback. But we have a microphone in the pen, so it does a great job. As you can hear, I'm talking here. By the way, there's the sound directly from the pen. There's the speaker that I played. But recording, the quality of recording, we did 2 things. The recording here is a very, very powerful microphone, but we also let you plug in binaural headset. So you can plug in earbuds that we make available. And the earbuds, instead of being regular earbuds, each has a microphone in it. And there's a fascinating effect. It's called the cocktail party effect, which means if you're in a cocktail party, you and I are talking, I can listen to my right without turning my head, and I can listen to that conversation. I can stop and listen to the left. The reason you can source that is your brain, the sound comes from one point, hits your ear, and takes a half millisecond at 70 degrees to get to the other ear. That allows your brain to know where it's coming from. If you put 2 earbuds in your ears with microphones in them, you record in binaurally, which is 3D sound. When you play it back, if you're in a lecture hall, you hear this chairs squeaking around you, you hear somebody behind you whisper, but you can focus on the teacher and it's perfectly clear. Or you can put these in, hold a phone up to your ear, and you can hear both, you record both sides of a conversation if you tell the person you're recording. So you're taking notes in a phone call and you're writing furiously, you've got both sides of the phone call. You just tap your notes after the fact and you haven't missed anything.
Wow. So this lets you do some sort of weird shorthand, because all you need to do is record a word out of the minute that you're listening to somebody. So if Bill Gates is telling you about nuclear power, you just need to write nuclear and then touch that, and you'll hear him talking to you about nuclear power for a minute or something.
Exactly. So at a very simple level, if you're taking notes, you don't need to worry about listening and deciding, do I listen or do I write? Do I think or do I write? So the anxiety relief for a student is huge. For a business person, a salesperson, for a journalist, anybody that's writing notes trying to capture verbatims, or market researcher, or a field researcher, scientist, working on a patent discussion, all these people. The other thing that you touched on is the fun discussion we could have at some point. It evolves the way we think about this tool we call writing and speaking, and this means of communication. It actually, you start out and you do it the way you normally have done. Then you realize you can change your approach to the way you're capturing information. Then when you start sending information to other people, you actually evolve the way you author content, because I don't need to write out full words, I can just write out partial symbols. So it's fabulous to watch what's happening in our pencast community as we see people's method of communicating evolving with this medium. That's a high concept discussion we could have.
Now that's really interesting, and maybe at the end we'll talk a little bit about how you see people using this, but it's quite interesting. But let's.
Should we keep going? I'll show you more on basics.
I know that there's more to this, because
Okay.
I've seen Chris, give me a little demo, and it does some magic.
This is what I've looked at is paper replay. That's audio, ink capture, writing and speaking capture, and moving it to your desktop or directly accessing it. What we did next is said that's an application. This is a platform that's one app, just one app. So we said, let's allow a person to actually navigate through a menu system hierarchically on a blank piece of paper to an application, then launch an application.
Give me a nice idea of what an application would be.
So, this is one, but let's say I'd like to do something like this. Here's my nav tool, and I'll navigate to some apps. This plus sign at the bottom is I can navigate going up, down, left, and right like a rocker panel, or I can draw my own user interface this way by tapping the center, and it says main menu. I'll plug in our speaker again, make it a little louder. So there's my main menu. Let's look at some apps.
Application.
There's a folder of apps, and here are some preloaded apps.
Paper replay.
There's paper replay.
Piano.
A piano app.
Translator demo.
Here we
You're
go.
using the plus you just drew on the paper as UI.
Yes, I drew my own.
Like on my iPhone, I would have to click on something and go up through a menu, down through a menu, left
That's
through
right.
a menu, right through a menu.
I drew my own UI.
That's mind-blowing.
Thank you.
Okay, so take us up and down and let us listen to it again.
So so I drew what we call a nav plus, a navigation plus sign, which is a UI. So I can go
Piano.
up or down, and as I do it,
Paper replay.
it scrolls through menu items
Piano.
that are shown. So I'll go down,
Translator demo.
there's an app. I can go back up or down, or I go to the right, and that will launch it. So I'm going to go to the right,
Spanish.
Spanish. I'll go to the right again,
Write a word.
and it tells me to do it. I'm in the app now. It says print something. So I'm going to write
Uno.
So it recognizes my writing.
Yeah. Okay, you wrote one. It has an app that you've loaded because of this UI.
I've launched the app.
And the app is a translation app.
Is a
And
translator.
Anything you write, it understood that you wrote one,
Yeah.
and it turns it into Spanish.
That's right. Now, in reality, these four, I have four languages. This is a demo in the pen, but you can download a full 120,000 word English-Spanish translator, and we have developers working on other languages as well. So I'm showing you a real fast version, but I can do that.
Let's talk about these apps. Can somebody build a Wikipedia app so that I can? Is this internet connected?
Okay, so the two questions, and let me come back. The first question is building apps. People can build apps with our SDK on our website for free. And they can decide then if they want to post them and for free or they want to sell them, and we have a 70-30 split. So that's basic. Then we look at the toolkit they have to create apps. They can create apps that use speech recognition or handwriting recognition that let people draw things, and we got some really cool apps. Now let's think about the Wikipedia app. I actually saw a prototype of a Wikipedia app a few weeks ago that somebody had built. And it turns out 80% of the Wikipedia entries are comprised of about 50,000 entries. So they took the abstracts for 50,000, public domain, put them on the pen, self-contained on the pen. And you can write a term down and you get the abstract, and I show you how you can scroll through it. That's before we get internet connected. Now the next step is getting internet connected. Right now, the device is a standalone device, and we're looking at the future at connectivity. So, stand by, watch this space, but not yet. Right now, the connectivity does come when you plug it in. It takes things off your pen and you can share them on the net. But in terms of wireless, that's coming. It's not here now. To finish this off, there's the one, by the way, that I just wrote. I'm going to plug this back in. And I'll write another word. How about banana? Oops, A-N-A-N, banana. So, Platano, please. And I can write in print or cursive.
Por favor.
So the ink that I just wrote on the page stays hot. That one now is tied to an app and it's hot.
Plátano. Por favor.
And if I'd like to use my Nav Plus to change languages,
Spanish.
I'll go to Mandarin.
香蕉.
And if you see, we designed the display so we cover any iconographic character in the world with high resolution to see it.
Whoa. Okay.
And please,
请
or I go to
Mandarin. Arabic.
Arabic,
واحد. موز. من فضلك.
and that's a funny word.
من فضلك.
So you can see that there. So there's one app.
How many
Now,
languages do you have in there?
This is 4 languages with 21 words each, just to show you what's possible. So
So
every
very
pen
small
comes with that, right? But again, you can download now the Spanish, and we have Chinese coming, we have Korean coming, we've got a lot of other languages.
Can you order a beer?
Well,
I know German. Ein Bier bitte.
بيرة.
there we go. 1 beer. So,
واحد. بيرة. من فضلك.
and how about let's
Arabic.
go to
Mandarin.
一啤酒，请
Mandarin. Spanish.
Uno. Cerveza. Por favor.
yep. So we can have fun. So another app. There's another app that's a very basic app. I say basic because we put it inside the pen. And by the way, to launch an app, there's a couple ways. I can navigate up and down like I did here before. I can go
Spanish.
back over to my main menu. There's a
Translator
translator demo.
demo.
I can go up or down. Another way to launch an app, in addition to navigating, is just writing the name of it. And what we did is said, gee, if I write a word, how does it know that I want to turn that word into an app launch? So what we did is we created something called launch line. And if I draw a line and draw back on it, it recognizes, it should watch for a command.
So that's a command line.
It's a command line.
It's like a C prompt.
That's right. It tells it to watch.
Just
That's
back
right.
and forth.
Yep, back and forth. So when I do this, back and forth, and I'll write now P-I-A-N-O, piano. And now,
Draw your piano. First, draw 9 vertical lines from left to right.
so we'll do what it said. And it shows us how 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Connect the lines on the top and bottom.
So we'll connect the top, the bottom.
Write the letter I.
Put an
This
I
is your
down.
instrument icon. Write the letter R. This is your rhythm
R.
tracks icon. Tap the keys to play.
So we built a keyboard. And in fact, if I want, I can,
Add
finish it
sharps
off.
and flats. Draw C
so we'll
sharp.
go back and we'll put in the chromatics. There's C sharp,
Draw
shows you
D
where
sharp.
to do it, tells you if you're wrong.
Draw F sharp. Draw G sharp. Draw A sharp. Tap the keys to play.
Okay. My mind is blown. That is really cool.
I could change
Vibraphone.
instruments.
Kalimba. Steel drum.
Even if I move right over the C sharp from C, C sharp, D, and it shows it on the pen. Kick off a rhythm track. And play around with this and stop. So there's another app. So it's a
How do you
neat-
find all these apps? Because
we created these internally because I started and said I want to get some apps here that show the potential of the platform, that demonstrate the concept of what new kind of user interface we've created, and kind of are also, they're viral because people love to play and they love to show something that's emotive, and the language suggests something utilitarian. And the one other basic app we put in this was this one. If I write C-A-L-C, now my pen is a calculator. So if I want to do, all we did is number function, number syntax. So if I write something like 46 times, and I'll give it to you, I'll unplug the speaker, and if you just write, go ahead and write a number,
All right. And I bet
and then put equals, and now look in your hand.
Leave it there.
it says 736.
So you wrote 14, you wrote 16, and it got it right,
Yep.
equals 736. Incidentally, since we print dots on paper and then we can print art on top of it, that means that we can pre-print software as applications, such as in the front of the notebook. Right here, there's a financial calculator, statistical calculator, basic and scientific calculator, and to use those, I touch them. I touch C for clear, and I go 65 times 3 equals, and it works. Scientific, etc. So we have people are creating, the ideas here are pretty unbounded because it's a whole new medium. And at a low cost, with a low cost, the pen, we have a 2 gig, 4 gig, and 8 gig pen, smart pens.
How much are they, by the way?
129, 169, 199. So an entry point pen with 2 gig for 200 hours of audio is $129. And it comes with paper. Again, paper is free if you want to print your own. Software to connect to your Mac or PC, as well as a half a gig of storage on our server where you can post pencasts. And back to the pencast discussion, for anybody in the world to see, whether you want to share them privately or publicly. And that's a big, this notion, this is fascinating, because to be able to have a teacher can sit down and do what they do well, which is explain something. They'll take a pen and say, okay, class, today we're going to talk about a quadratic equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. We're going to factor this as a product of two binomials as ax plus b times cx plus d equals 0, and they continue from there. Now at this point, the kids are lost. And what happens now is the teacher can stop, and then they can go back, and of course they can touch this on paper. So there's the sound. But when they dock their pen, they move this to their desktop, they can then share this with anybody in the world by putting on a community site for any student to go and see and watch over and over. We have a teacher right now that's posted about 120, we have many, thousands of teachers using this. One has posted about 120 pencasts on high school algebra. She's had over 50,000 views of those pencasts because people go in and watch how to solve a 2-minute explanation of an absolute value problem, or how to graph a linear equation. You know, what's the slope-intercept form? And we have people posting pencasts.
Now on the screen, do you see the writing appear as over time? You know, in other words, or do I just see a page appear?
Well, I don't know. We'll probably pick this up, but I'll go to a web page. Here's an example of Popular Mechanics website where this is learning in a different way. The writer interviewed Tom Mueller, a rocket scientist from SpaceX, and he said, "Tom, here's a rocket engine. Could you explain how it works?" So Tom took the pen with a notebook. He explained it. The writer took the embed code, dropped it in his web page, and here's a pencast. And right here, if you watch what happens, I'll plug in the audio. Anybody in the world can see this right now. Here he is, and if I click play, this is being served from our server.
Hello, my name is Tom Mueller.
And you watch Tom explain how this was done.
It fills it in.
It animates it. In fact, we can animate it with invisible ink, and watch. If I scrub it, we can watch how he drew the whole thing out. I can go back and forth. If I want, wherever I stop, or I can make it partly gray so I can see what's coming. If I click here,
And we have one,
or down here, listen to what happens. He describes
So this is two back-to-back impellers.
the impellers. We
on
can
a single
also
shaft.
zoom in.
Pump the liquid oxygen, which I'll show a
Comes
line
down
connecting to
here.
the pump here, coming in at low pressure, 50 psi. In.
So teachers now can take a piece of paper and pen, explain a subject, and author content on a difficult area, post it for anybody to see. We're talking to educators at very senior levels in major districts around the country that see this as a breakthrough that's similar to what Clay Christensen talked about in his book, Disrupting Class, after he wrote Innovator's Dilemma. And this has not happened before because it's an issue of authoring content. Okay. So
Very cool. Well, why aren't you on stage at TED showing this off?
I actually was.
You were?
I showed it in 2008 when we had a very first version of it. Yeah, I showed it, but it was before we'd even started selling it. I said, here's what we're going to do to change the world, and here's how we can basically change education on a global basis. And I said I'll come back in the future and hopefully show you what we've done. And right now, in a period of less than 2 years, we've shipped over almost 500,000 smartpens, and a lot in a short time. They're at Best Buy, they're at Target, they're at Amazon, they're at our website, they're at all the Apple stores as well. And we're expanding globally with a lot of applications. And I've just shown you the beginning.
Oh, I can bet. Very cool.
Thank you.
I'm blown away. So I'm going to try this thing out.
Thank you. Thanks. The effect right now, the comments we get from students, first of all, they just say, we ask people if it's changed their life, one of those questions. And we were hoping 10% of people might have said it's changed my life in a positive way. We had 62% of our users said it's fundamentally changed their life, and they told us why. Students said, I get better grades, reduced anxiety, I study better. Kids with learning disabilities, off the charts. Salespeople, I don't worry about capturing information in meetings. Researchers, all these people. It's amazing to see when you provide something that people, it's a new medium, and its basic affects communication. It really has an impact on people's lives.
Very cool. Well, thanks for coming to my house and showing it to me.
Thanks. My pleasure,
I'm definitely
Robert.
going to buy some for my kids. So.
All right.
Thanks
a lot.
Much.
You bet. Thank you.